The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. And good morning. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for the first day of spring, Friday, March 20th. Your readers today are
JJ Patek.
And I'm Ed Howard, and we're going to start with the weather. And the forecast is for breezy today with periods of rain, high of 47 degrees. Tonight, cloudy, low 31. Variable cloudiness tomorrow with a high of 48. Sunday, periods of rain, a high of 56. On Monday, much colder, intermittent snow and flurries in the morning, high 34. And on Tuesday, it'll be mainly cloudy. Our normal high and low temperatures for this date are 43 and 31 degrees. Our record high is 76, set last year in 2025, and our record low was -1 in 1993. And our precipitation year to date is just over 7 inches. We normally should have about 7.6 inches, so we're about 6/10 of an inch behind for the year. And the air quality index for today is said to be good.
Well, thank you for that. And let's open up with the bills come due in Buffalo. Ryan to propose a 25% tax increase. This is from Justin Sondel. Mayor Sean Ryan plans to put a 25% increase to the city's tax levy before Buffalo's Common Council when he submits his proposed budget next month. From the time he was a candidate and since taking office January 1st, Ryan has said that residents should expect significant tax increases in the coming years as his administration works to fix the city's massive structural deficit. Council members have said that the administration was floating at a 15% bump to the tax levy, but Ryan has not yet set a figure publicly. During an unrelated news conference, the mayor said he plans to introduce a 25% increase in the levy this year when responding to a question. Asked if he thought council members would balk at such a large number, Ryan said he would work with members to find other ways to close the structural deficit while avoiding overestimating revenues and underestimating expenses. Practices of past administrations that Ryan said are partially responsible for the city's financial predicament. This year we have a $109 million deficit, and we're open to other ideas, he said. If Common Council members have ideas of how we can balance the budget, we're open to any of those suggestions. For years under former Mayor Byron Brown, budgets were proposed with expenditures far below previous year's totals in areas such as overtime, while overestimating the amount of revenues the cities would collect. Brown also rarely raised taxes over his more than 18 years in office, using tens of millions of dollars in reserve funds and one-time revenues to plug the resulting end-of-year budget gaps over that time. With reserves completely depleted, Ryan has said his administration has no other option than to raise revenues to fill the structural deficit in the budget. The state appears poised to provide at least $40 million aid to the city as part of this year's state budget, but the bulk of that money will likely go to closing out the current fiscal year, which the administration estimates will have at least a $24.5 million gap to fill. Ryan has till April 15th to present his budget to the council. The council must send any budget amendments to the administration by May 22nd. Ryan has said that the upcoming tax hikes may sound extreme when looking at the percentages. However, he has said that people whose homes fall on the low end of the assessed value spectrum will only see an increase of a few dollars a month. And even with the significant increases, the city's taxes will still be low compared with other communities. We're not going to engage in tactics we've used over the past that made it appear as though we were passing a balanced budget that actually just added to the ongoing budget structural deficit, Ryan said. After Ryan submits his proposed budget, council members will have a little more than a month to submit any amendments they wish to submit to the mayor's office. Council members would need to find other places to cut in order to reduce the rise in the levy. Ryan could then veto those amendments, which would require a supermajority vote of the council override. Council members could also vote the budget down, but in Buffalo's strong mayor system, the budget would stand as proposed, and the no votes would essentially be a public mark of disapproval, but would carry no practical consequence to the spending plan. Council President Joel Farolito and said the 25% figure was shocking and would be hard to sell to constituents. I think that a budget has a proposed 25% tax increase is not going to be popular, and I hope between now and the time that the budget is proposed, there's conversations about what other options there are, Farolito said. Fillmore Council member Mitchell Nowakowski, a Ryan ally, said he and other members of the council have been warning of the fiscal cliff coming after reserve funds were depleted for years. It's going to be a scalding hot potato once it's in the council's lap, said Ryan, submitting the budget. Nowakowski said both he and Farolito said they will need to wait to see the contents of Ryan's plan before offering a comment on how they might try to bring down that 25% number. It's going to be important for the council to scrutinize the entire budget, Nowakowski said.
Well, staying on the front page of today's Buffalo News, our next headline is Garcia defends take-home rules on county vehicles. Sheriff defends take-home vehicle policy in a tense meeting with Erie County legislators. Erie County Sheriff John Garcia spent more than an hour Thursday fielding county legislators' questions and defending his employees' use of take-home vehicles, at times criticizing questions as, quote, political games, unquote, and at other times talking about a willingness to partner with the legislature to build a better policy. The Sheriff's Office has 183 county-owned vehicles that officers and other employees take home, both marked and unmarked. Garcia said he believes most are unmarked, but defended the number in a meeting with the county legislature on Thursday, saying that in a county that covers 600 square miles, it is unrealistic and too costly for the Sheriff's Office to house vehicles in central hubs. But over the course of more than an hour, Democratic legislators raised numerous questions about the Sheriff's Office policy, which permits personal use of county vehicles, and expressed concern about the Sheriff's Office failure to comply with Internal Revenue Service reporting standards. They also asked whether employees sign any paperwork regarding their assignment of a vehicle, acknowledging the rules for vehicle use, and whether employees are expected to log times when their vehicle is used for personal reasons. Aaron Nagley, Technical Sergeant of Fleet Operations, said that instead of employees signing documents when granted vehicles, the Sheriff's Office electronically tracks vehicle assignments. It also tracks mileage when the car is fueled or needs maintenance or repair, but does not require employees to document their personal use. Given that Sheriff's Office employees may be called upon at any time to assist with a police call, they say restricting personal vehicle use anywhere in Erie County is unreasonable. Republican legislators defended the Sheriff's Office vehicle policy and objected to what they described as micromanagement. Minority Leader John Mills, Republican of Orchard Park, called scrutiny of the Sheriff's Office vehicle use, quote, a witch hunt, unquote. Thursday's gathering was the fourth meeting of a special committee created to address a critical Comptroller's Office audit of how the county and its Bureau of Fleet Services manage its taxpayer-funded fleet of cars. The audit found lax accountability, record-keeping and enforcement, multiple policy violations, and abuses of the county's gas systems. The audit also criticized Fleet Services' lack of transparency, it said, as well as a lack of cooperation from the Sheriff's Office with the audit. The use of Sheriff's Office vehicles has also become a public flashpoint due to the continuing fallout from the case of Daniel D.J. Granville, the narcotics chief who crashed his county-owned pickup truck into 7 parked cars on Buffalo's Lower East Side late at night in April 2024, and claimed he was working when comptroller payroll records indicate he wasn't. After the matter became public a year later, Granville agreed to repay the county $76,000 in damage claims and is now slated to retire from the Sheriff's Office on March 27th. The legislature's goal is to draft a stronger vehicle use policy within the next month or so that would consistently apply to all departments and independently elected offices. Fleet Policy Committee Chairwoman Jean Vinal, Democrat of Amherst, asked why jail administrators get take-home cars when they're not sworn police officers like the road patrol. She also suggested that under the sheriff's office new fleet policy, there's too much leeway for employees using a car for personal reasons to retroactively state that they were on duty and get paid for that, which she called an affront to taxpayers. Garcia and Nagley said they don't see that happening. Garcia accused Vinyl of taking political shots at the sheriff's office, saying that Amherst residents care more about public safety and affordability than details on vehicle fleet use. Of all the issues your district has, I don't think this is the top 10, Garcia said. So this is definitely a political attack on my office. It is, legislator. You know it and I know it. Legislator Taisha St. Jean Tard, a Democrat of Buffalo, questioned why the sheriff's office fleet policy allows employees who live outside Erie County any personal use. The current policy, adopted in January, states that officers given a take-home car outside of the county may still make stops for personal reasons as long as the personal destination is on their route home. She said it was a bad look and asked the sheriff's office to work with the legislature to make improvements. Garcia agreed. I'm glad you brought it up, he said. No, it's not a good look. Of the 183 take-home vehicles the sheriff's office has, no breakdown was provided on how many of those cars were marked with the sheriff's office seal versus unmarked cars that could pass as ordinary vehicles but are still equipped with secure storage compartments and internally with lights and sirens. Take-home vehicles are assigned to both sworn officers with full arrest powers as well as other personnel such as jail deputies and correction officers who hold peace officer status. One civilian, the director of correctional health, also has a take-home car, Garcia said. The new fleet policy enacted in January gives sheriff's employees who receive take-home vehicles unlimited ability to drive those vehicles for personal reasons anywhere in Erie County. The policy also states that as long as someone lives within 20 miles of Erie County's border, as the crow flies, he or she is eligible for a take-home vehicle. JJ?
Thank you. Will Trump deploy U.S. troops to Iran to seize uranium? This is from Amar Madani and Seung Min Kim from the Associated Press. President Trump is facing perhaps the most daunting question of the war with Iran, one that could define his time in office. Will he put U.S. troops on the ground in Iran to secure some 970 pounds of enriched uranium that Tehran could potentially use to build nuclear weapons? Trump has offered shifting reasons for launching the war, but he is consistent in articulating that a primary objective is joining Israel in the military actions, ensuring that Iran will never have a nuclear program. The president has been more circumspect about how far he's willing to go to follow through on his pledge to destroy Iran's weapons program once and for all, including seizing or destroying the near bomb-grade nuclear material that Iran possesses. Much of it is believed to be buried under the rubble of a mountain facility. Pummeled by U.S. bombings, Trump ordered last June that he had claimed obliterated Tehran's nuclear program. It's a risky, complicated project that many, pardon me, I lost my page here, that many experts say cannot be done without a sizable deployment of U.S. troops in Iran, a dangerous and politically fraught operation for the Republican president who has vowed not to entangle the U.S. in the sort of extended and bloody Middle East conflicts that still loom large on American psyche. At the same time, lawmakers and experts remain concerned that if Iran hardliners emerge from the fighting, they'll be more motivated than ever to build nuclear weapons as they look to deter the U.S. and Israel from further military action, a dynamic that makes taking control of Iran's enriched uranium even more critical. That stockpile could allow Iran to build as many as 10 nuclear bombs should it decide to weaponize its program. Some lawmakers, like Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, say they remain deeply fearful that the president has not put the nation on a path that will require putting troops inside Iran for what he called Trump's confused and chaotic objectives. Some of the objectives that he continues to espouse simply cannot be achieved without a physical presence there. Securing the uranium cannot be done without a physical presence, says Blumenthal, a member of the State Senate Armed Services Committee. And meanwhile, Republican allies of Trump stress that there are plans in place to deal with the enriched uranium. Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman James Risch, a Republican from Idaho, on Wednesday cited a number of plans that have been put on the table, and he declined to elaborate.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and the time is 15 minutes past the hour, and we're going to turn next to the editorial page. And the editorial today is headlined, Crowd Magnets. Downtown Buffalo is getting some love from Shays, the Bisons, and March Madness. Downtown Buffalo may have its struggles, but for decades, Shays Buffalo Theater has reliably brought in the crowds. Shays CEO Brian Higgins put it simply, when Shays is active, all of downtown Buffalo is active. The historic theater, built by Rapp and Rapp in 1926 with interior design by Louis Comfort Tiffany, deserves all the support it can get in enhancing its attractive pull. And that's exactly what's happening as construction begins on a 25,600 square foot rear addition that, as the News' Jonathan D. Epstein reported, will add a new lobby and entrance, new concession space, upgraded bathrooms, and 3 new high-speed elevators. Enjoying the theater's lineup of hot Broadway hits and other programming is going to get a lot easier. With an estimated cost of $35 million, this hasn't been a cheap endeavor. What construction project is these days? But it's well on its way to being covered thanks in large part to New York State. Governor Kathy Hochul was in town on Monday announcing that the state will provide an additional $5 million in funding, bringing its total commitment to $18.5 million. This expansion will solve chronic problems that have impeded the enjoyment of Shays attendees for years. Not enough bathrooms, not enough lobby space, long lines for refreshments, and accessibility concerns. Construction should finish in time for Curtain Up in September 2027, and there won't be any interruption of shows in the meantime. We've grown so used to bragging about Shays that we forget that it was almost demolished in the 1970s, threatened with a fate that could easily have swept away other local treasures such as Frank Lloyd Wright's Martin House, the Sullivan Guarantee Building, the Richardson Olmsted campus, and other landmarks. As Hochul noted, this is a place that we must fight to ensure it is here for many years to come. Our culturals must endure difficult times. Nothing can be taken for granted. Meanwhile, an outing to see the Buffalo Bisons has always been a pretty good deal, and it just got better. As reported by the News' Mike Harrington, the team is introducing Family Value Nights for all 11 of its Thursday home games. Tickets are just $10, which is half the top ticket price, and a special $3 concession menu aimed at kids has been introduced. A $20 ticket might not sound that pricey, but it means a family of 5 could be into 3 figures before factoring in refreshments. Other family discounts are planned, a wise move now that everything costs more. The season opener for the Bison's 75-game home schedule is at 1:05 p.m. on March 27th against the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. It will likely be a chilly one, but true fans won't be staying home. And lastly, it's a toss-up as to who's more thrilled about the NCAA annual basketball tournament returning to KeyBank Center for the first time since 2022. Hoops fans or downtown restaurants. The first round of 8 teams played Thursday, with winners advancing to second-round games on Saturday. This is a big get for Buffalo, with as many as 19,000 fans descending on the city and an expected $7.6 million in economic impact, according to Visit Buffalo's CEO Patrick Kaler. Restaurants have focused on speed and great deals like Pearl Street Grill's $25 all-you-can-eat buffet that includes wings and beef on weck, and Fat Bob's Barbecue and Brackets takeover of Buffalo Iron Works, the live music venue located within a block of KeyBank Center. The return of March Madness comes at an exciting time for the local sports scene, with the Bills making the playoffs, the Sabres expected to do the same, and the Bandits gearing up for a fourth title. Whatever form it takes, sports from March Madness and the Bisons, or Broadway musicals and Shays, downtown Buffalo needs regular crowd appeal. Let's keep the momentum going.
Thank you. And from another voice, an article about infrastructure from Jerome D. Shad and Michelle M. Ainello and Peggy A. Legreet, comprising the Erie County Water Authority Board of Commissioners. Across the country, public water systems are working to meet federal requirement to replace lead service lines by the end of 2037. Here in Erie County, we're ahead of the curve. The Erie County Water Authority is committed to completing all identified lead service line replacements by the end of 2027, a full decade ahead of the federal deadline. It's an ambitious goal, but one we are well positioned to achieve as we enter the second year of our Get the Lead Out initiative. Lead service lines were installed in older parts of our community more than 80 years ago, long before anyone understood the serious health risks. Today we know that lead poses significant risks, particularly for infants and young children. Removing these lines is not just a regulatory requirement, it's a public health priority. In 2023, approximately 150,000 service lines in our system were classified as unknown, meaning their material had not yet been verified. Through aggressive public outreach, including more than 50,000 mailings and door-to-door visits, we reduced that number to approximately 21,000 by 2025. So far, we've identified 1,155 service lines that contain lead, and approximately 357 were replaced in 2025. Our immediate focus remains on confirmed lead service lines. Galvanized requiring replacement lines are being evaluated separately through continued sampling and analysis. Many residents have taken advantage of our simple at-home service line material tests and self-reporting tool on our website. This public participation has helped us identify hundreds of unknown service lines more quickly and efficiently, allowing us to direct resources where they are needed most. In 2026, we will continue inspections across our service territory and replace confirmed lead service lines throughout the year. The Get the Lead Out initiative is being implemented proactively and aggressively, not just to comply with federal regulations, but as part of our broader mission to provide safe, high-quality, and affordable drinking water through reliable infrastructure. We are committed to getting this work done and to doing it the right way.
Well, next we're going to turn to Adam Ziglis' editorial cartoon for today. And the cartoon is a two-panel cartoon, and there's a sign at the top of it that says NATO Outreach. And in the left-hand panel, it's labeled Then, and what we see is a arm sticking up, and look, there's a cufflink there with a T on it, so I suspect that has to do with our president. Mm-hmm. And it's holding the hand at the end of the sleeve has a middle finger extended, although there is also a panel over it that says censored. Mm-hmm. Now, on the right-hand panel, it says now. And all of a sudden, the hand is reaching up out of a body of water, which is labeled Straits of Hormuz. There's a little tattoo on the hand, and it looks like the hand is kind of waving like it's, drowning maybe.
Yeah.
Now, you can decide, but I'm going to guess that this cartoon has something to do with the consequences of alienating your allies. But we describe, and you can decide for yourself.
Yes, we do. That tattoo says Iran on it, so we know what that is.
Yep.
Is affordability really that big a crisis? And this is from Froma Harap. At some point, the headlines turned affordability from a concern into a crisis. But what does affordability mean? For most of us, that depends on what we consider our minimum requirements for happiness. If you look at TikTok, life in New York City is a fairy tale of chic bars, eggs topped with caviar, and everyone looking conspicuously stylish. For much of Generation Z, TikTok is what they know of the expensive cities they and plenty of others dream of frolicking in. The music, the sunsets, the screenshot bait. They set their hearts on the pricey neighborhoods paraded across the screen. Add to them the immigrants who stream into these cities for economic opportunity, many not appreciating the grittier reality. Somehow, the less privileged newcomers seem better equipped to make peace with disappointment. Zohran Mamdani won the New York mayoralty, promising a much more affordable city, which he can't deliver. Now, politicians of both parties, President Trump included, are selling the same dream to the masses who believe they've been cheated out of the lifestyle they think is rightfully theirs. Home prices in Los Angeles are especially high relative to incomes. A real estate expert said for buyers, there has to be versatility in searches. People are not needing as much space. They want convenience. Translation, they must make trade-offs. Are some people leaving California for less expensive places? Sure, and if the move makes sense, who could blame them? But that hardly means Californians are stampeding for the exits. To borrow Yogi Berra's line, nobody wants to live in California anymore. It's too crowded. Some retirees feeling priced out of the Florida coast are moving across the state's panhandle to Alabama. And for generations, New York City residents have departed for the less expensive suburbs. An activist in New York declared that the city should provide housing for everyone who wants to live there. Well, probably 1 billion people want to live there. Should they flatten brownstone Brooklyn to build apartment towers? New York is not alone. Some affordability folks want to steamroll zoning laws and wreck streetscapes that speak of home, all in the name of building more housing. The developers are certainly on board. Look, this is not to defend all the building restrictions. Some are outdated. Allowing ancillary dwelling units, often sold as granny flats in backyards, makes sense. But turning a home into an apartment complex for extended family or whomever in the neighborhood of modest Cape Cod can create an eyesore for everyone else. As for big city living, one deal that helps justify the high rents is public transportation. Most New Yorkers get along fine without their own vehicles. An uncle who lived in a car-dependent Dallas never learned to drive. How did he do it? He moved near a bus line, and according to his daughter, he had friends with cars. And meanwhile, the U.S. is a big country. There are wonderful, more affordable cities in the heartland: Omaha, Columbus, Indianapolis, Kansas City. In former booming Austin, median house prices are now in the mid-400,000s, down about 20% from the 2022 high. A Politico piece on the affordability crisis noted with a straight face that almost half Americans feel they could not pay for a vacation that involves air travel. Talk about expectations. For most of us, affordability isn't a crisis. It's a first world problem.
Our second political column comes from F. Willis Johnson, who writes for the Fulcrum, and his headline is, "Sacred Restraint is Vitally Important in a World of Turmoil." Across the globe, Muslims, Christians, and Jews enter seasons of fasting, repentance, and remembrance. Together, the Abrahamic traditions represent over half the world's religious population. Each tradition calls its followers to humility and a deep concern for others, whether through fasting, repentance, or remembrance of past liberation. Yet, as sanctuaries fill with prayer and discipline, the world outside is marked by tension and turmoil. While some seek peace in their houses of worship, violence and uncertainty threaten to spill over borders, and leaders reach for the language of destruction rather than patience. We see this tension most clearly in the confrontation between Iran, the U.S., and Israel. Rhetoric escalates, proxy forces assemble, and the world feels perched on an edge even as sacred rituals urge restraint. Here at home, we're not immune. Our political life is stuck in a loop of grievance and suspicion, with election seasons deepening division rather than renewing community. The public square, rather than inviting repentance or reflection, amplifies anger and spectacle. What does it mean to practice restraint amid these troubling times? The answer, I believe, lies not in the differences among these observances, but in the shared moral logic each represents. Ramadan, through prayer and fasting, encourages empathy and awareness for those who suffer. Lent, with its ashes and prayers, reminds us of our own limits and the illusions of power. Passover, as families tell the story of liberation, insists that freedom carries with it the responsibility to resist oppression wherever it appears. These ancient disciplines teach humility, memory, and the hope of freedom. Yet, when we look at public life, it's clear those lessons are often set aside. Where sacred tradition lifts up humility, public debate rewards arrogance. Where memory should teach, we see history repurposed to justify harm. Where liberation is celebrated, domination is sought. The disconnect between these ideals and the rituals and the realities outside their walls is striking. If we look more closely, we see that war and power always needed a story. Power is often framed as defense, destiny, or divine mandate. This logic reverberates from Washington to Jerusalem to Tehran. Governments assure us that violence is necessary, their cause righteous, their enemies monstrous. Violence becomes ordinary through fear, repetition, and finally with blessing. All three faiths teach that every human stands vulnerable before God. This is not defeatism, it's a corrective to political arrogance, a wisdom that urges us to refrain from destructions even when it seems popular. Even as the world burns, millions will still rise before dawn to pray and fast, wear the quiet mark of ashes, or retell the story of liberation around a family table. These rituals stand in quiet contrast to the machinery of geopolitics. They remind us that civilizations endure not only through power, but through moral vision. And whether the world is ready to heed that wisdom remains an open question.
Thank you. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time now is 31 minutes past the hour. And in Washington news, Pentagon seeks an extra $200 billion for war. Hegseth denies quagmire. This is from Lisa Mascaro and Kevin Freaking of the Associated Press. The Pentagon is seeking $200 billion in additional funds for the Iran war, a sizable amount that is certain to be met with questions from Congress, which would need to approve any new money. The department sent the request to the White House, according to a senior administration official who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the private information. Asked about the figure at a press conference Thursday, Defense Secretary Peter Hegseth did not directly confirm the amount, saying it could change. It takes money to kill bad guys, Hegseth said. But he said, we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded. The U.S. officials told lawmakers that the first 6 days of the war with Iran cost more than $11.3 billion, a figure that attracted criticism from lawmakers, including Senator Andy Kim, a New Jersey Democrat who said it represents billions of dollars just not being spent on addressing our needs. Hegseth brushed aside the criticism. He said the U.S. campaign was proceeding as planned and attacked the media for what he said was unfair skepticism about President Trump's approach. The media here, not all of it, but much of it, wants you to think that 19 days into this conflict, we're somehow spinning toward an endless abyss or a forever war or quagmire, Hegseth said at a news conference on Thursday morning. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hegseth said the U.S. was winning decisively, destroying Iran's ballistic missile arsenal, its Navy and submarines. He declined to answer a question about a specific time frame, but he said the U.S. is on plan with a clear set of objectives and would end the conflict at a time of the president's choosing ultimately. Hegseth also hit out at European allies who've largely shunned Trump's request to help police the state of Hormuz amid Iranian threats that have effectively closed a waterway that's vital for global oil and gas tanker traffic. The world, the Middle East, our ungrateful allies in Europe, even segments of our own press should be saying one thing to President Trump. Thank you, Hegseth said. The $200 billion is an extraordinarily high amount and comes on top of spending extra funding the Defense Department already received last year in President Trump's big tax cuts bill. Such a request would need to be approved by Congress, and it is not at all clear such spending would have political support. The nation's debt has surged past a record $39 trillion. Congress has been bracing for a new spending request, but it is not clear the White House has transmitted the request for consideration. Lawmakers have not authorized the war, and Congress is showing growing unease with the military operations scope and strategy. The new funding request was first reported by the Washington Post, and Trump said the administration is asking for the money for other reasons beyond Iran. This is a very volatile world, the president said from the Oval Office. He said the emergency spending would be a very small price to pay to ensure the nation's military stays in top shape. While the House and Senate are controlled by the president's Republican Party, many of the more conservative lawmakers are also fiscal hawks with little political appetite for big spending on military operations or other matters. Most Democrats are likely to reject such a request and demand more detailed plans from the Trump administration about the U.S. military goals and objectives. Representative Ken Calvert, the Republican chair of the House subcommittee with oversight over defense spending, said he's already advocating for a supplemental spending bill to allow the Pentagon to replenish munitions. This was going to happen, and now we have this conflict with some additional costs, so that's where we're at, Calvert said of California on Thursday. I know there are peripheral issues out there, but people are concerned about, but right now this is about our national security, and it's important that we get this done. But Representative Betty McCollum of Minnesota, the ranking Democrat on the House subcommittee with oversight over defense spending, said the president has taken the U.S. into a war without coming to Congress, and she's demanding more details. This is not going to be a rubber stamp for the President of the United States, McCollum said. She said Congress is still waiting for the administration to explain where it would be spending the additional $150 billion funding that went to Pentagon through Trump's tax and spending cut bill. It's also waiting on the president's budget request for this year. I'm not writing blank checks to the Defense Department, McCollum said. It all points to a monumental battle ahead of Congress over any new Pentagon spending that will almost certainly need support from Republicans and Democrats in a bipartisan package to push past objections toward approval. The requested amount will be a hefty boost to the Pentagon's annual budget, which Congress approved at more than $800 billion for the current fiscal year. That's on top of some $150 billion that Congress gave the Defense Department in last year's tax bill cuts, much for specific projects and overall upgrades to the Pentagon's operation. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has projected that the federal government will run a $1.9 trillion annual deficit this year, and that's before adding any spending done through a supplemental bill. House Speaker Mike Johnson said it's a dangerous time and we have to adequately fund defense. Asked whether he supported the amount, Johnson said he has not seen the details, but I support what's needed to ensure that the American people remain safe. While some of the military's biggest champions on Capitol Hill have welcomed new spending as a way to replenish munition stocks and upgrade the U.S. defense capabilities in the face of emerging threats, others will certainly point to health care and other domestic needs that they view as more important priorities. Representative Rosa DeLauro, the ranking Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, said of the $200 billion price tags, it's outrageous. To muscle a package to passage, Republican leaders could either try to go it alone through an arduous budget process or cut deals with Democrats on other priorities that would likely balloon the overall price tax. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, a Republican from Louisiana, signaled the negotiations ahead. Ultimately, we are going to have negotiations with the White House on exact amounts, Scalise said. We're not at that point yet.
Well, staying in Washington news, Japan's leader tries to reaffirm an alliance with Trump. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi sought to reaffirm her alliance with President Trump on Thursday after the president this week seemed to complain that Japan was among the nations that did not join his call to help protect the Strait of Hormuz. Takaichi, who met with Trump at the White House, told the Republican president that Japan has opposed Iran's development of its nuclear program and appealed to his desire to be seen as a peacemaker despite launching a war of choice with Iran by telling him through an interpreter, quote, "Even against that backdrop, I firmly believe that it is only you, Donald, who can achieve peace across the world," close quote. The two leaders had warm words for each other, including Trump calling the Prime Minister, quote, "a popular, powerful woman," close quote. But there appeared to be some tension as they faced repeated questions from reporters about Japan's support for the Iran war. As Trump took questions from reporters during the roughly 30-minute public appearance with the Prime Minister before their closed-door meeting, Takaichi could be seen checking her watch. And then Trump made a particularly uncomfortable remark about invoking Japan's 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor when he was asked why the U.S. didn't notify allies like Japan ahead of the strikes in Iran. "We didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor, okay?" Trump joked. As Trump said that, Taikachi's slight smile appeared to droop, and she raised her eyebrows. Trump told reporters that he and Taikachi would be discussing in their meeting Japan's level of support for the U.S. in the Iran war, saying, "They're really stepping up to the plate." He did not offer details. He said later that much of the oil that Japan relies on passes through the Strait of Hormuz and said, "So that's a big reason to step up." He also mentioned U.S. spending in Japan and the number of troops it has stationed there. "I expect Japan to step up, because we have that kind of relationship," Trump said.
Thank you. For what Americans are giving up to afford health care, this is national news by Ali Swenson of the Associated Press. Lately, Priscilla Brown has had to choose between properly managing her type 2 diabetes and affording other necessities like gas in her car. Some days she takes a half or a third of her prescribed insulin dose just to stretch it out longer. "Sometimes I don't even take my medicine," said the 48-year-old truck dispatcher in Orlando, Florida. "It's so much with insurance, it's crazy. About 8 in 10 Americans, like Brown, who re-enroll with the Affordable Health Care Act to marketplace coverage, say their care costs are higher this year, including about half who say their costs are a lot higher, according to a new survey from the healthcare research nonprofit KFF. The main reason for the increased cost was the December 31st expiration of enhanced tax credits that had offset premiums for most enrollers. For Brown and others, those spiking costs are having real impacts on daily life. The 1,117 Americans surveyed who had ACA marketplace coverage in 2025, including those who dropped coverage or changed plans, about 55% said they're planning to deal with healthcare costs by cutting spending on food and other basic household needs. Democrats in Congress had last year fought to keep the COVID-era subsidies, but faced pushback from Republican leadership. In January, momentum toward a bipartisan compromise fell apart, leaving some 23 million ACA enrollees without relief as they faced higher premiums or made tough decisions to disenroll or downgrade plans. In a new poll, which was conducted in February and March and followed up with respondents from a survey conducted last year to learn how they're grappling with health insurance now, offers a glimpse at how Congress's unresolved flight continues to strain regular Americans, even as many federal lawmakers have, at least in the moment, turned to other priorities. Last year, Brown paid $0 toward her health insurance premiums. This year, her new plan costs $17 a month and has a higher deductible. Brown says she learned this week that her new refill of medicine was going to cost more than $150 and almost passed out. She filled her car with only half the gas she needed, knowing she'd need money for the medications. Anxieties about expected medical costs are acute, the poll shows. About 3/4 of people who had ACA insurance last year now say they are very or somewhat worried about paying for emergency care or hospitalization, while about half said the same about routine medical visits or prescription drugs. Most of last year's enrollees, about 7 in 10, stayed on ACA health insurance, but that includes about 3 in 10 who changed plans within the marketplace. Meanwhile, about 2 in 10 became eligible for coverage through their employer, Medicare, Medicaid, or purchased insurance outside of the ACA marketplace, which tends to be less comprehensive. About 1 in 10 of last year's enrollees said they dropped coverage altogether are now uninsured, the polls show. Eric De La Basure, a 63-year-old software developer in Seal Beach, California, was part of that group. He said when he saw his mid-tier silver level plan was going to nearly triple to $1,200 a month, it was not something my budget could absorb. About 7 in 10 returning ACA enrollees face higher costs that they blame health insurance companies a lot, while just over half put a lot of blame on Republican lawmakers, President Trump, and pharmaceutical companies. About a third blame Democrats in Congress or hospitals a lot, while about 1 in 10 places level of blame on doctors or employees. Respondents who identify with a political party and saw costs rise overwhelmingly blamed the opposing party's lawmakers a lot. James Mako, an engineer in Boca Raton, Florida, and a political independent, said he blames the Republican Party. His $500 per month premiums were poised to double this year for his silver level ACA health plan, so he downgraded to a bronze level plan with a higher deductible. Mako said he's not convinced by the ideas the Republicans have floated to fix problems like funneling money into health savings accounts. I think they're just sales gimmicks, he said. The subsidies should be back.
Well, in world news, the headline is, trade with Cuba caves in as Trump escalates pressure. The Cuban Communist Party has shown an astonishing resilience over 6 decades in power. Whether it's the United States trade embargo to counter Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution, or the widespread starvation of the special period that followed the breakup of its Cold War patron, the Soviet Union, both U.S. hostilities and calamities of its own making have proven no match for the country's leadership. But perhaps none of those crises pose as grave a threat as the one triggered by an all but declared naval siege by the Trump administration as it seeks to force regime change in the wake of its successful ousting of Cuba's longtime ally, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Even as he fights a war with Iran, President Trump this week said he believes he'll have, quote, the honor of taking Cuba, close quote, soon. While it wasn't clear exactly what he meant, the United States is looking for President Miguel Diaz-Canel to leave power as part of ongoing talks with Havana that could avert some kind of U.S. military intervention. Without declaring a formal blockade, Trump and his administration have already crippled trade with the island. In March, supplies of oil, food, and other goods to the island collapsed, with no foreign originating tankers arriving to Cuba, according to shipping data analyzed by Windward, a maritime intelligence firm. The volume of port calls, which includes tankers moving from one Cuban port to another, averaged about 50 per month in 2025, but fell to just 11 in March, all of them arriving from domestic ports. That is, domestic ports. It was the lowest since 2017. Moreover, little relief is in sight. No tankers are on their way, and only 3 container ships originating in China, India, and the Netherlands are reporting Cuba as their intended harbor, though their destinations could change. The stranglehold is disrupting the lives of Cuba's 11 million residents who are enduring massive blackouts and a breakdown in medical care due to a lack of fuel to power ambulances and hospital generators. The country, one of the most heavily reliant in the world on oil to generate electricity, produces barely 40% of the oil needed to cover its energy needs. Ian Rowby, head of IR Consilium, a U.S.-based consultancy focused on maritime security, said the United States' aggressiveness will not endear Trump to Cubans long eager for change. Every Cuban resident is suffering the acute inaccessibility to fuel and the knock-on consequences in terms of access to food, hospitals, and free movement, he said. The sudden halt in trade has taken place without the White House reapplying restrictions on exports to Cuba that were loosened during the Biden administration. Indeed, shipments of U.S.-produced poultry, pork, and other foodstuffs to Cuba, which account for the vast majority of U.S. exports to the country, last year soared to $490 million, the most since 2009. Non-agricultural exports and humanitarian donations, much of it to Cuba's emerging private sector, more than doubled. But emboldened by the U.S. capture of Maduro, Trump has gradually escalated his rhetoric on Cuba, first suggesting he would pursue a friendly takeover of the country, and more recently telling conservative allies from Latin America that he would take care of Cuba once the war with Iran winds down. JJ?
Thank you. As part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Dee Virgilio, Ruth Ann, age 92, from North Tonawanda. Goldstein, Mary Jo, called JoJo, née Downey. She died on March 16th of 2026. Murphy Isabel E., age 99. Siegel, Carol Drew, age 74. And Steinberg Leo. If you need any further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555.
Well, now it's time to turn to Georgia Nichols Royal Stars. And if today is your birthday, happy birthday. You are multi-talented, imaginative, and tenacious. You're an optimist who radiates enthusiasm. This is a year of service, perhaps to family. Take care of yourself so that you can be a support to those who need guidance, comfort, and support. Now, the stars show what kind of a day you're going to have. 5 stars is a dynamic day. 4 stars is a positive day. 3 stars, average. 2 stars, so-so. And 1 star, difficult. Unfortunately, nobody today has a 1-star day. We'll start with Aries, and you're having a 4-star day. Today, the sun enters your sign to stay for the next 4 weeks. That means that today, the sun, the moon, Venus, Saturn, and Neptune are all in Aries. Tonight, you should check your possessions. For us Taurians, we're going to have a 3-star day. Today, a gaggle of planets are in a hidden part of your chart, which means that you'll be happy to work behind the scenes. However, it's an excellent day to set future goals. Ideas? Tonight, you win. For Gemini, 4-star day. Friendships are important to you now, despite elements of confusion. More importantly, this is a powerful time to talk to bosses, parents, teachers, and authority figures about your wishes. Tonight, you should enjoy privacy. For Cancer, a 3-star day. Today, the sun moves to the top of your chart to stay for the next 4 weeks, symbolically casting you in a flattering spotlight. Tonight, the word is friendships. For Leo, 4 stars. Your desire to travel and expand your horizons will be very strong in the next 4 weeks. By all means, travel for pleasure if you can, and tonight, you're noticed. For Virgo, it's a 3-star day. Be patient with those who are closest to you, even if you feel a bit annoyed. Mercury has been retrograde, attracting ex-partners and old friends back into your world. For tonight, you should explore. For Libra, 4 stars. You will be relieved to know that delays and goofy mistakes related to your job and possibly your health are over as of today. But tonight, you should check your finances. For Scorpio, it's a 3-star day. Lucky news. The next 4 weeks will be a productive time for you because you'll find it easy to work and accomplish a lot. Tonight, you should listen with understanding. Sagittarius, 4 stars. It's Fun City for Sagittarians for the next 4 weeks. Accept invitations to party, enjoy sports events, vacations, playful activities with kids, and romance. But tonight, you need to get better organized. For Capricorn, 3 stars. For the next 4 weeks, your focus will shift to home, family, and your private life. You might be involved with a parent more than usual. Tonight, you should socialize. For Aquarius, 4 stars. The pace of your days will accelerate for the next month because you have places to go, people to see, and things to do. So tonight, you should relax at home. And finally, for Pisces, it's a 3-star day. Show me the money. A handful of planets are currently in your money house, encouraging you to explore ways to boost your income. And tonight, the word is meaningful conversations.
Thank you. That was our entertainment. And now for Today in History. In 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte returned to Paris after escaping his exile in Elba, beginning his 100 Days' Rule. In 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe's influential novel about slavery, Uncle Tom's Cabin, was first published in book form after being serialized in the abolitionist newspaper The National Era. It would become the best-selling novel of the 19th century. In 1854, the Republican Party of the United States was founded by opponents of slavery at a schoolhouse in Ripon, Wisconsin. In 1976, kidnapped newspaper heiress Patricia Hearst was convicted of armed robbery for her part in a San Francisco bank holdup carried out by the Symbionese Liberation Army. Hearst was sentenced to 7 years in prison. She was released after serving 22 months and pardoned in 2001 by President Bill Clinton. In 1995, in Tokyo, packages containing the deadly chemical sarin were opened and dispersed on 5 separate subway trains in a terror attack by members of the Aum Shinrikyo cult, causing 14 deaths and injuring more than 1,000. And in 1996, a jury in Los Angeles convicted Eric and Lyle Menendez of first-degree murder in the shotgun slings of their wealthy parents, and they were sentenced to life in prison.
And we'll wrap up our hour with this word from the Political Notebook. The Powell probe could backfire on Trump. President Trump for months has wanted to remove Jerome Powell as chair of the Federal Reserve, but instead, an investigation by one of his own officials could end up extending Powell's time at the top of the central bank. Trump has nominated former Fed official Kevin Warsh to succeed Powell, yet Warsh's confirmation has been delayed by a Justice Department investigation into brief comments Powell made before the Senate Banking Committee last June about the Fed's building renovation. Senator Thom Tillis, a North Carolina Republican, has said he won't confirm any Fed nominees until the investigation is dropped. With all the Democrats on the committee also opposed to moving forward, Tillis' stance has effectively blocked the committee from advancing Warsh's nomination.
They're listening to a reading of articles in the Buffalo News for today, Friday, March 20th of 2026 on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and we'll return for more readings after this short break. Your readers today are
Ed Howard
and JJ Patek.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Ed Howard.
and J.J. Patek. And on to city and region. Racism cited as school board rejects interim COO candidate. This is from Bez Sujimoto. Louis Seri was about to be appointed to Buffalo Schools interim chief operating officer on Wednesday night's board meeting. He said colleagues this week had already started congratulating him on his promotion from assistant superintendent of plant services, a role he has held since December of 2023. Considering previous COO Louis Petrucci had been appointed to the role by Mayor Sean Ryan's administration, the job change seemed to be a formality, but Kerry said he was still worried. In fact, he had applied but was never actually interviewed for the role, he said. His concerns were realized. He learned late Wednesday night that the Buffalo School Board voted down his appointment in a 5-4 vote, and it was an unusual turn of events considering the board approves dozens of personnel moves every month without discussion. Sarah believes the board's decision against him was race-related. I'm not an angry black man, but I do understand how the dynamic in Buffalo works, and I've watched it for 2 years, Seri told the Buffalo News on Thursday. He said he was excited to be the first black person to hold the COO role in the district. I can have the uncomfortable conversation coming from New Orleans, he continued. This is about the color of skin. Seri said his discrimination argument stems from events that have unfolded since then. COO David Hills hired him to a leadership role overseeing engineers in his buildings department. Seri said the former COO told him that he would be a good fit as his successor, and Hills retired last summer. Seri said he was irked when Petrucci, the former school board member who represented the South Buffalo area, was appointed instead. Seri emphasized he had a positive working relationship with both former COOs. The board majority's reason for their decision was not particularly clear, and Seri said there was no explanation given to him for why the board acted. At-large board member Larry Scott and Adriana Zulik on Wednesday night said another board member had meddled in the hiring process. We have a guardrail that says a board member shall not perform or appear to perform any of the responsibilities that get delegated to the superintendent, Scott said. Just based on information I have, I do not feel like this process was upheld, and because of that, we were unable at this time to appoint a permanent replacement for the Chief of Operations, and that's why I'll be voting no tonight. It has nothing to do with the recommended interim that is on the agenda, he added. Zulik, Eric Bowen, Cindy McEachin, and Louis Mookie Hawkins also voted against the appointment. Individual board members shouldn't get involved, as Willick said, referring to the hiring process. No one mentioned any specific criticisms of Seri. In fact, they identified him only by the line of his appointment at the board's agenda. After reading media reports, Seri was confused about board members meddling in the hiring process. He told the Buffalo News that he's never actually spoken to any of the board members. After Seri accused the school board of discrimination, district leaders and the board's leadership team were given an opportunity to respond. Both said they would not comment on personnel matters. The vote for Seri's position was not the only surprising moment at Wednesday night. The school board capped the meeting by approving payment of up to $500,000 to settle a Child Victims Act lawsuit originally filed in 2019 against a Lafayette physical education teacher. The lawsuit was filed by legal representatives of a female student who attended Lafayette in the late 2000s through pseudonym JMH 200 Doe. The plaintiff accused teacher Christopher Jagiello of sexual assault and also named then Lafayette acting principal Fatima Morel, Lafayette and Buffalo Public Schools and Buffalo School Board in the suit. Prior to the settlement, the jury trial had been scheduled for early May before Erie County Supreme Court Justice J. David Sampson. But the settlement left fewer questions than what transpired with naming an interim chief operating officer. None of the board members Wednesday specified who interfered with the hiring process and how they did so. But it's the second instance in the last 4 months where reported behind-the-scenes maneuverings led to the halt of a process. The district school closure committee, comprising board members and appointed community representatives, in December sparked conflict when committee members claimed politicking had influenced the recommendation of 2 schools to close. Superintendent Pascal Mubanga ultimately did not accept the committee's recommendation of School 3 and School 90, then decided to hire an outside consultant to drive further school closure decisions. If he were approved, Surrey would have started Thursday, replacing Petrucci, who was appointed as Commissioner of Permits and Inspections for the City of Buffalo. Surrey was slated to make $157,384, according to board documents. His salary when he was hired in December of 2023 was about $88,000. Mubanga appeared to take the vote's result in stride, showing relatively little emotion and telling board president Kathy Evans Brown he hoped the board would be amenable to holding a special meeting to appoint another potential interim candidate before next month's scheduled board meeting. Even on interim basis, the chief operating officer position of Buffalo Schools holds significant responsibility overseeing transportation, safety, and security, food service, and facilities. I can leave tomorrow? I really can, sir, he said, but that's not really what's true for all these black youth I'm trying to make an impact on. They would have been, that would have been a big positive thing, a big uplift.
Well, the Western New York distributor is linked to 28,000 pounds of illicit vape products seized downstate, Governor Hochul says. A Western New York e-cigarette distributor could face criminal charges after more than 28,000 pounds of illicit vapor products were seized in Nassau and Orange counties, Governor Kathy Hochul said on Thursday. The seized vape products were linked to EctoWorld, which does business as Demand Vape, after a 3-month investigation into wholesale vape distribution across the state by the Health Department's Bureau of Investigations. That investigation, Hochul's office said, discovered that EctoWorld has been illegally sending large quantities of vape products to sub-distributors and unlicensed retail shops across the state, including shipments that were recently seized downstate by police. According to the state, these sub-distributors and unlicensed retail shops are not included in the business categories that distributions are allowed to ship vapor products within New York. Illicit vape products pose serious health risks to New Yorkers, especially our youth, Hochul said in a statement. This seizure is a major victory for public safety and a clear message that New York will not tolerate illegal operations that put our communities at risk. EctoWorld could not be immediately reached for comment. The company and its affiliate Magellan Technology Incorporated have leased space in a warehouse on Kenmore Avenue in the town of Tonawanda. In early 2024, Magellan Technology paid $4.05 million to buy a nearly 82,000 square foot warehouse at 1370 William Street in Buffalo. Hochul's office said criminal charges against EctoWorld and its owner will be pursued through the Nassau County District Attorney's Office and Orange County District Attorney's Office. Nassau County Police, with support from the county's health department, helped seize shipments that included more than 26,000 pounds, 25 pallets, and more than 570 boxes of illicit vapor products. In addition, a shipment totaling about 2,761 pounds, 2 pallets, and more than 60 boxes was seized in coordination with the town of Montgomery Police Department with support from the Orange County Health Department. Magellan Technology serves as the purchasing arm for Demand Vape, which then sells and ships the products to other distributors, according to a lawsuit filed last year against 13 companies, including EctoWorld, by New York Attorney General Letitia James. JJ?
Thank you. Delaware North expands in-office work mandate. And this is from Jonathan Epstein. Employees at headquarters must work on site 4 days a week. The hospitality giant Delaware North on Thursday told employees at its Buffalo headquarters it will expand the in-office mandate from 3 days a week to 4, joining other major employers in the city that are bringing workers back to the office more often. The company said it would require employees at its 250 Delaware Avenue headquarters to come to work Monday through Thursday starting May 4th, rather than the current Monday through Wednesday requirement. The change affects 425 people based at the headquarters, while those who work at other locations are by and large supporting whatever the operation is, said spokeswoman Kate Zulewski. Delaware North executives in the announcement said the company thrives on the power of people coming together and noted that employees have worked on site with a consistent schedule for the past 18 months. We have seen the positive impact this has had on collaboration, connection, and performance, they added, saying the change would build on that. But the memo also stressed that the company and its managers would remain flexible in response to the individual needs, and Zalewski said Friday will remain the optional hybrid day with no current intention to move to 5 days in the office. Leaders may continue to approve occasional work-from-home days when circumstances arise, and team members should continue to connect with their direct manager and flexibility is needed on a given day, the memo continued. The move by one of the largest privately owned companies in Western New York follows a similar step taken by Buffalo's biggest private sector employer, M&T Bank Corporation, which last month also issued a new directive for its non-branch employees to work from the office 4 days a week, up from the previous standard of 3 days. That change applies to far more workers, however. It will be phased in by location and business over the course of the year. The dual moves, which are likely to set a tone for other companies, also follow calls by downtown business leaders and politicians to bring more people back to work full-time. 6 years after the COVID-19 pandemic sent everyone home to work for weeks and months before people started coming back. Major employers bringing more workers back downtown will help support local businesses, and it's a good start as we continue to work on breathing life back into downtown Buffalo, said Buffalo Mayor Sean Ryan. Downtown officials have estimated there are about 20,000 fewer people coming into the city's core each day, which has hurt restaurants and other businesses that rely on downtown workers as a key part of their customer base. Businesses say that despite the success of remote work during the pandemic itself, they function much better when employees are in the office where they can interact, work together, and bounce ideas off each other more easily. But even more, leaders are deeply concerned about the impact of remote work on the downtown atmosphere and the lack of vibrancy on the streets and in many buildings. Any news like this is good news for downtown Buffalo, said Buffalo Police Chairman Steve Carmina. Going into spring with more feet on the sidewalks of our city and feeding our restaurants and activities can only help. Workers, however, have pushed back on the growing return to office mandates because of the impact it had on their daily lives, especially for employees with children and the loss of flexibility that comes with remote work. But with a stagnant local job market, employers are realizing that the risk of unhappy workers leaving and finding a comparable job with a more flexible schedule is shrinking as hiring has slowed. As a result, the push to bring workers into the office more frequently has been gaining momentum, not only in Buffalo but across the country. Automaker Stellantis and retail Home Depot have both announced this year that they were implementing a 5-day-a-week in-office policy.
Well, New York and 7 other states are suing to block broadcast television merger that would impact Western New York. State Attorney General Letitia James is part of a multi-state lawsuit filed early Thursday that seeks to block the merger between 2 broadcast television behemoths, Nexstar and Tegna. The proposed $6.2 billion merger would have a significant impact in Western New York, bringing together the 2 highest-rated local stations under one ownership. Tegna, the company that runs WGRZ-TV, that is the NBC affiliate on Channel 2, would be purchased by Nexstar, which owns WIVB-TV, the CBS affiliate on Channel 4. The 2 parent companies agreed last August to the deal, kickstarting a months-long review by the Federal Communications Commission, with a decision expected later this year. With Thursday's lawsuit announcement, however, there is now one additional barrier from the move that would shift the power balance in national broadcast media. In announcing the lawsuit, James' office described the merger as illegal, arguing it unlawfully limits competition. Competition among local TV stations allows consumers to enjoy a variety of affordable options for quality coverage of news, sports, and more, James said in a statement. This illegal merger threatens local news and could raise fees for consumer by combining hundreds of TV stations under the same owner. I'm suing to stop Nexstar's illegal merger with Tegna to keep cable bills down and ensure New Yorkers can access the independent local news options that they count on. Other states that are also part of the lawsuit are California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, North Carolina, Oregon, and Virginia. If the merger goes through, Buffalo would be one of 31 media markets in the country to see, quote, diminished competition, James' office said. Ripple effects have already been felt in Western New York, the News' Alan Pergament has reported. While the initial agreement was met with anxiety and uncertainty, especially at WGRZ-TV, leadership at neither local affiliate has been forthcoming over the last 7 months about what a merger might mean for local television. The stations also have not said whether their flurry of recent personnel moves had any connection to the looming merger. Among the pressing questions is whether Nexstar would choose to merge the two existing Buffalo newsrooms or continue to run them separately, and if either approach would lead to job eliminations.
Thank you. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and the time now is 15 minutes past the hour, and we move on to, yay, sports. The USF's wild comeback try falls short to Louisville. This is from Catherine Fitzgerald. Brian Hodgson is a fighter. He's shown it all his life. The physical scars on his legs reminding him how he's overcoming his journey from foster child to NCAA men's basketball coach. He instilled that fight in his team in the University of South Florida. The underdog Bulls showed resiliency, but ultimately came up short Thursday in the first round of the NCAA tournament as number 11 seeded USF fell to the number 6 seeded Louisville at 83-79 at KeyBank Center. The Bulls pulled within 4 with 5.2 seconds left, but the Cardinals were able to hold them off. That South Florida even climbed to within 4 later in the game was a testament to the Bulls' never-say-die nature. We shot ourselves in the foot in the second half, Hodgson said. They certainly had. The Bulls trailed by as many as 23 points in the second half before Hodgson's gritty squad fought back. You knew they were going to make a run, Louisville second-year coach Pat Kelsey said of the USF. Senior guard Joseph Pinion, who transferred from Arkansas State to follow Hodgson, led the Bulls in scoring with 27 points. He added a team-high 6 assists as well as the Bulls went on 2 separate 7-0 runs to cut into the Cardinals' lead. I thought we battled back really hard, then on that run the whole crowd was behind us, Pinion said. The neutral site crowd at KeyBank Center seemed to latch on to the Bulls. Some of the noise was surely for Hodgson, the 38-year-old who grew up in Olean and graduated from Jamestown High School before career in coaching led him to assistant jobs at UB and Alabama State and the top job at Arkansas State. But perhaps the crowd also wanted to root for USF, the plucky 3.5-point underdog, a team that wouldn't go out without a fight. It's just in us, Bulls senior forward Isaiah Nelson said. We don't have to quit in us. We just don't have quit in us. All 14 guys, we never back down from anything. Coach tells us every time this game ain't over. The encouragement went both ways when Louisville's Isaac McNeely connected on a 25-foot three-pointer to put the Cardinals ahead by 23 points, 62-39. USF took a timeout with 12:50 remaining. Hodgson said the timeout was player-led with teammates reminding each other to take it one possession at a time. Still, the deficit was too much to overcome. McNeely led all players with 23 points, going 7 of 10 from three-point range. Sananda Frew had 10 points and 10 rebounds off the bench for Louisville, 24-10, when finished 6th in the Atlantic Coast Conference. The Bulls were a dismal 5 of 33 on three-point range. Pinion made all 5. USF guard Wes Enos, who led the team in scoring throughout the season, was 0 of 11 from deep. The critics will say we took too many threes, Hodgson said. I think we took some good ones. The Bulls shot 15.2% from 3 after a regular season in which they made 32.2%. Pinion felt Louisville did a good job of preparing for that aspect of the game. My teammates, they always set me up really well to go get threes, Pinion said. We have so many guys we have to guard. There's guys over there screening for me, sacrificing their own roles to get me shots. That goes to show how selfless our team is. Sometimes teams scout really well against our teams, and they knew we were running too some of the times. So they were able to top block us a little bit and force us to go into something we didn't necessarily want. On Wednesday, Hodgson lamented how he would only get 1 year with this team. On Thursday, he was processing what the lumps meant for the Bulls, a group he called loyal over and over again. So much of the lead up to the game centered on Hodgson's story, and he was glad that by proxy he could shine a light on his parents, Larry and Rebecca, who have taken in more than 100 foster children over the years. Wow. The head coach's vulnerability brought him close to a tight-knit Bulls team. Just hearing that story, like how he didn't have family and things like that, like I didn't have a father growing up, Nelson said. So him having his father come to the game tonight, it just sparked something in me because I didn't have a dad growing up. It was just my siblings and my mom. Hodgson covered his face with emotion as Nelson continued. So just seeing that, I would do anything for this man right here next to me, Nelson said. Like he believed in me, and he just believed in me, man. Nelson had also followed Hodgson from Arkansas State. The relationship between coach and player was a reflection of the larger bonds from within the South Florida locker room. Obviously, it's been very well known. My story this week because I'm back home in Western New York, Hodgson said. Nelson's got a much deeper story than mine, that that young man is a billboard for mental toughness. Just to hear what he said about me, I feel the same way about him times a million. We'll be part of each other's lives forever.
Well, next we have Jay Skursky's column, and his headline is, In Re-Signing Connor McGovern, Brandon Beane accomplishes priority number 1, protecting Josh Allen. Brandon Beane made it very clear what his number 1 priority is as the president of football operations and general manager of the Buffalo Bills. We have to protect Josh, Beane said this week during an interview with the Buffalo News. He's our number 1 asset. Josh, of course, is star quarterback Josh Allen, and Beane is on the money. The Bills need to protect Allen as much as possible because he is the biggest reason the team will compete for Super Bowls in years to come. Being able to re-sign center Connor McGovern earlier this month was a huge victory for Beane, especially because the team feared losing both him and left guard Dave Edwards as free agents. Edwards departed for a lucrative contract with the New Orleans Saints, but McGovern re-upped for 4 more seasons. Quite candidly, I didn't feel great that we were going to get either one of them back, Beane said. I would say it was a relief. Sometimes you're jumping for joy when you get a guy or get a trade. We were eating lunch in here when we got it done on Saturday, and it was like, whew, we got Connor back. Beane had gone home the night before, thinking 2/5 of the team's starting offensive line was about to walk out the door. That would have been a tough blow to overcome. I would crush myself if I didn't put the right people in front of him, Beane said of Allen. Not to worry, McGovern's extension, which is worth up to $52 million, not only ensures a good deal of continuity up front, it also comes at a team-friendly cost. His $13 million average annual value ranks number 5 among centers in the league, but it's a good bet he could have made more on the open market. McGovern has been a steady presence in front of Allen for the past 2 seasons. He's the 3rd offensive lineman Beane has signed to a big contract extension, joining left tackle Dion Dawkins and right tackle Spencer Brown. It was a huge relief. The concern naturally was we're going to lose both of them. That's a legit concern, head coach Joe Brady said. Protecting Josh is the most important thing. I didn't do a good enough job against Houston during the 2025 season, but you see what it looks like if we're not protecting, right? It doesn't matter who your receivers are if Josh is on his back. McGovern is the leader on an offensive line that also paved the way for the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL, so the importance of the group up front extends beyond just protecting Allen. McGovern also brings a leadership element to the locker room that would be hard to replace, especially after the offense lost Edwards and fullback Reggie Gilliam. And losing another leader in McGovern would have put even more leadership responsibility on Allen's plate, and the quarterback doesn't need that. JJ?
Thank you. The Sabres Stanley finding comfort. And this is from Mike Harrington. At 6'7", it's pretty easy to spot a new Buffalo Sabres defenseman, Logan Stanley, I'll say. The big plays stand out. So do the mistakes. In a game like Tuesday's 2-0 win in Vegas does too. Stanley, who had some uneven results in his first couple outings with the Sabres while paired with former Winnipeg teammate Luke Shen seemed much more comfortable playing alongside rookie Zach Metza. That pair was slated to get another run Thursday night into SAP Center as the Sabres met with the San Jose Sharks. Against Vegas, the Stanley Metza pair had the edge in both shot attempts at 11 and 10, and shots on goal 6 and 5 while they were on the ice. When you're a third pair on a team with 4 defensemen capable of playing 25-plus minutes a night, breaking even is fine. It's a weird feeling moving groups and meeting a bunch of new teammates and how they play, Stanley said prior to Thursday's game. So, yeah, I think I'm a little more comfortable now. I think it's still getting better, but going in the right direction. So hopefully we'll keep it going there. It was good. I thought we complemented each other. Always support each other, Metza said. That's kind of what you mainly want, especially when you're a new D pair and learning each other, styles and tendency. Just a lot of talk, a lot of support. Coach Lindy Ruff said he liked the puck movement and defending of the Stanley and Metza pair. Everyone around this club has liked what they've seen from Metza, who has not been on the ice for a goal against 5-on-5 since October. The Sabres have outscored opponents 20-2 with Metza on the ice. He's a very intelligent hockey player. He moves well. He's easy to play with. Stanley said, if I didn't know that this was his first year in the NHL, you'd think he'd been playing for 10 years with just how poised he is and makes great reads all over the ice. Ruff said it was easy to go back to that pair given the results in Vegas and the confidence Stanley's showing. He understands how we need to play, and I thought his box outs on the net were real good moving the puck, Ruff said. 90% of it was good, and I'm sure there's a couple he wants back, but overall, I think he's feeling better about his game more than the first couple. Now, winger Alex Tuch, who sat out Tuesday's win due to an illness, took the morning skate fully on his time with Zach Benson and Tage Thompson and was expected to return. We'll get a good read on him early, and you can balance the ice time off that, Ruff said.
Well, it's good that we have news about the Sabres and the Bills, but next Wednesday the Major League Baseball season starts, and so it's time for a baseball story.
Yes, it is.
And the headline here is, In the Zone, some of baseball's tallest hitters, robo-umpires should bring consistency. San Francisco Giants rookie Bryce Eldridge, who is logged at 6'7" and some change, he said. That was the measurement for the slugger for the Major League's automated ball strike system. That is one expansive strike zone, but a more defined one at least. I think they told me I'm the tallest guy they've measured position player-wise, Eldridge said during spring training. So I got that going for me at least. So I've got the biggest zone, the biggest ABS. After years of testing in the minors, the robot umpire system for reviewing ball strike calls is going to be used in the regular season games in the majors this year. The abbreviation for the setup is ABS, but the most important letters when it comes to the change just might be SIZE, size, relating to the strike zone for some of the game's tallest players. I've got a lot of respect for the umpires and what they do behind the plate, New York Yankees slugger Aaron Judge said, so I can usually pride myself in not showing them up or putting on a show or doing anything like that because they got a tough job back there. So we'll see. I'll find the right time to use it. If they're pretty outrageous calls, I think I'll use it. The 6'7" Judge, who won his third American League MVP last year, sounded more excited about the possibilities for 6'5" teammate Giancarlo Stanton. His whole career has been kind of getting screwed over, and also now this kind of changes everything, Judge said. He's so routine-oriented to where you get a bad call, you get a good call, whatever. It's just kind of about flushing to get to the next pitch. Well, now you got 2 seconds to try to make up your mind. Strike zones vary depending on a player's height, starting at, get this, 53.5% of a batter's height for the top and 27% of a batter's height for the bottom. The top and bottom of the zone for baseball's biggest giants, a list that also includes 6'7" center fielder Oriel Cruz of the Pittsburgh Pirates and 6'6" left fielder James Wood of the Washington Nationals, have long been two difficult areas for umpires, but the ABS system provides an opportunity for a closer look. Each team has the ability to challenge 2 calls per game. A team retains its challenge if successful, similar to the regulations for video reviews. A team out of challenges for a game tied after 9 innings would get 1 additional challenge in each extra inning. Only a batter, pitcher, or catcher may challenge a call, signaling with a tap on the helmet or cap, and assistance from the dugout is not allowed. Specifically with Aaron Judge, I like his zone, I think is higher than most, right? Because he's taller, Chicago Cubs catcher Carson Kelly said. So you might catch one at the knees that feels like a normal strike, but it's low on him. So I think it's another aspect of catchers is we're going to have to understand who's at the plate, what the zone is like. I mean, if it's a smaller zone, that ball might feel like it's a strike at the top. It's probably a ball. The 21-year-old Eldridge, who got used to ABS in the minors, said he thinks it's great for a game. I had a situation last year where we were in the 9th and we were down by 2, I want to say, and I struck out looking. Eldridge said I challenged it. It was a ball, and I hit a home run on the next pitch. The game can change just like that, and with this, it's pretty cool.
Thank you. And spring is coming, baseball's starting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's raining outside instead of snowing.
Yeah.
Well, you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And the time is now 30 minutes past the hour, and we're moving on to advice from Asking Eric, our Eric Thomas. Dear Eric, a year ago I had to have a procedure done for a brain tumor. It was a very scary emotional roller coaster event. My best friend of 42 years said, "Don't worry, I'll be there with you every step of the way." When the date and time were finally provided, I told her we have to be at the hospital at 6:30 a.m. Her response was, "I can't go then. I don't get up until 9. I would have to call my daughter and see if I could hear the phone when she called me. I don't have an alarm clock. I was so taken aback. My friend was going to be with me every step of the way and was not going to make any effort to get up and go to the hospital with me. Wow. The day before the procedure, she called back to say good luck and never called afterward to see how I was. Days later, she came over, and I told her how I felt about everything. The friendship was over, and after the hurt, I got angry and thought about the 42 years. I was the one who drove every time we went anywhere. I picked up the tab for meals. I was there to help her. She's very self-centered and always acts helpless. I do not feel any loss in this friendship. It cost me a lot of money to have her name removed from all my legal documents. My friends are split on this situation. Most say what she did was unforgivable. Others say I should forgive her and rebuild the friendship. What? Am I wrong to feel nothing about her and a 42-year friendship? I honestly can say I don't miss her. Wow. And it's signed former friend. And the answer is, dear friend, every relationship, including friendships, has its season. True, sometimes when we're lucky the weather in those seasons is balmy for a lifetime. At other times we find that the season in which the relationship has worked has come to an end, and it's healthy to step away. Sounds like you're in the latter category right now. You're not obligated to feel any particular way. What's most important is that you're listening to your feelings, honoring them, and interrogating them. I would offer that a slight like the one you mentioned isn't unforgivable if you choose to forgive it, but again, you're not obligated to forgive if you don't want to. It also appears that your friend hasn't asked for forgiveness. The issues with your friendship aren't limited to her not taking you to the hospital. It sounds like this is the straw that broke the camel's back. That's a wow for me. The next letter. Dear Eric, I have a group of 4 close friends who met in college back in the 1980s. Out of the 5 of us, 2 of the friends are married, and their spouses are also invited when we get together. One spouse has integrated really well, and the other, who is a nice person, has some significant medical issues, and that's basically all they ever talk about. Everyone came together right after COVID for the wedding of one of the group members. We all stayed together in Airbnb except the couple getting married. During this weekend, it was a never-ending with the medical issues talk. After the wedding, I sat down with his partner, and the conversation started up with medical health stories. I listened for a bit, and they said, "Can we talk about something else? I know so little about your background and what you did, and I'd love to talk about other things in your life." We spent a good 30 minutes talking about their life, work history, and other things before I ever met them, which I appreciated. Since that time, this person has never attended another group event, and by my college friend, puts the blame on me for them not participating and feeling welcomed. I'll be honest, since they stopped coming, the annual gatherings have been wonderful. They're always invited if they want to attend. It's not me that's holding them back. If they're upset with me, then come to me and we can talk. Should I initiate a conversation? Should I call them and try to get back to attending our gatherings? And it's signed Friend Group. This is Dear Group. Your friend, spouse, can and should be responsible for their own social enjoyment. If they have a problem with you, they could have brought it up, but instead they told at least one, maybe more people that they're upset with you. That's simply not productive. It's gossip. If you actually want them to attend, sure, reach out about clearing the air, but it doesn't seem like you do want them to attend. It's fine to say nothing.
Well, next we have some health news, and this comes from Harvard Health Publishing, and the headline is From Tip to Toe for Healthier Nails, Dermatologist Shares Steps for Addressing Common Problems. Toenail fungus, ingrown toenails, and brittle or cracked fingernails can make your hands and feet unsightly and sometimes even painful. While these issues are more common with age, you can maintain healthy and good-looking nails. Here's what causes these nail problems and what you can do about them. Nail fungal infection known as onychomycosis is the nail problem that's hardest to treat. Our immune system is not as robust as we age and doesn't fight as hard to keep out invading fungi, says Dr. Abigail Waldman, a dermatologist at Harvard-affiliated Brigham and Women's Hospital. Also, nail tissue is hard and thick, so medications don't penetrate very well. Nail fungus typically affects the toenails. Feet are more likely to be sweaty and damp, which provides a better environment for the fungi, yeasts, and molds that are naturally present on your skins to flourish, Waldman says. Nail fungus can occur from athlete's foot, walking barefoot around warm, wet environments like locker rooms, spas, or swimming pools increases exposure to various fungi. A fungus can infect the skin between the toes and elsewhere on your feet, causing athlete's foot, which then can spread to the toenails. Toenail fungus can also affect the toenail after an injury, which allows space for fungus to get in, Waldman says. So at-home treatments. Treating nail fungus takes dedication and some luck. Waldman suggests following this daily treatment routine for about 3 to 6 months. First, soak your feet for 10 to 20 minutes in a mixture of 1 part white or apple cider vinegar to 3 parts warm water. Vinegar has antifungal properties. You can also use Listerine instead of vinegar, which contains thymol, a naturally occurring compound known to fight fungus. The soaking also helps to soften your nails and help medication to better penetrate, Waldman says. Dry your feet well and immediately apply a topical antifungal substance to all the affected nails. Waldman suggests 100% tea tree oil or Vicks Vapor Rub or similar generic brand, which also contains thymol. Athlete's foot cream is also an option. Look for products that contain the ingredients clotrimazole or terbinafine. Another choice is to use a lacquer that is brushed onto the toenails, which can be found in over-the-counter drugstores. Be aware that the complete cure for topical treatments is only 20%, according to Waldman. If you haven't noticed any improvement after 3 to 6 months, then you should see your doctor about a stronger prescription oral drug, she says. Oral terbinafine is the most commonly prescribed medication. Others include fluoconazole, grisufluvin, itraconazole, which is also known as Sporanox. Many dermatologists take a clipping of the infected nail to test the fungus to determine which medication would be most effective. Oral medications are taken daily for up to 3 months, and while the cure rates are higher than with topicals, between 40 and 80%, these drugs have more side effects, including upset stomach, diarrhea, and in rare cases, liver damage. If your toenails return to their normal appearance after treatment, the fungal infection may still lurk under your nails. So you need to practice ongoing good foot and nail care to prevent it from returning, Waldman says, and this includes soaking the foot in vinegar once or twice a week after being diligent about wearing clean socks, rotating shoes, using clean bath mats, and wearing sandals when possible. An ingrown toenail develops when a corner or side toenail grows downward and digs into the skin. It usually occurs on the big toe. Symptoms include soreness and red skin. Ingrown toenails usually correct themselves as they grow out, but to support the process, treat the toenail with daily vinegar soaks. After soaking, dry your foot thoroughly and massage the skin, then apply an over-the-counter hydrocortisone or antibiotic ointment, and don't cut your nail for a week or two. Wear open-toed or loose-fitting shoes as much as possible.
Thank you. And TIA, a warning sign. Tips for reducing further risk after a mini stroke, and this is in Harvard Health Publishing. A transient ischemic attack, or a TIA, or mini stroke happens to at least 240,000 people in the United States every year. Symptoms can pass quickly, but it doesn't mean you should put the episode in a rearview mirror. A TIA is a warning. Treat it as an opportunity to reduce your risk of going on to develop a full-blown stroke. What is a TIA? A TIA is a temporary lack of blood flow and therefore oxygen in a part of the brain. It occurs when one or more arteries supplying blood to your brain get partially or completely blocked either by plaque or a blood clot. Blood flow usually improves spontaneously within minutes, avoiding permanent brain damage. Symptoms are temporary, lasting only a few minutes or hours. The signs come on quickly and are the same as those of a full-blown stroke. Sudden face drooping, muscle weakness or numbness on one side of your body, severe headache, confusion, difficulty speaking, seeing, or walking. Because there's no way to tell in the moment if your symptoms are due to a TIA or full-blown stroke, always treat it as an emergency. Call 911 to get help right away. Stroke risk after a TIA. About 1/3 of those who have a TIA will eventually go on to have a full-blown stroke. The risk is highest during the first 48 hours. Up to 10% of people with a TIA go on to have an actual stroke within a couple of days. Your risk of stroke may be higher if you're 60 or older and have any of these risk factors: type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, weakness on one side of your body during your TIA, speech problems during your TIA symptoms that last for an hour or longer, or existing heart disease such as severely clogged or narrowed arteries. Medications after a TIA. It's not usually necessary to be hospitalized for a TIA. However, it's likely you'll be prescribed certain medications to reduce your risk of having a full-blown stroke. An example is an antiplatelet drug that prevents platelets or cell fragments that help blood clot from clumping together, clogging arteries, and raising the risk of a full-blown stroke. Your doctor may also prescribe medication to treat other underlying conditions that raise your risk of stroke, such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or a type of irregular heartbeat called atrial fibrillation. A TIA, or transient ischemic attack, is a temporary lack of blood flow to the brain caused by an arterial blockage or plaque or a blood clot. Now, lifestyle changes can help. Changes in the following areas can help reduce your risk of having a full-blown stroke after a TIA. Taking these steps may feel overwhelming, but they're worth it because strokes are often preventable. Number 1 is diet. A 2021 Harvard study found that eating a plant-based diet rich in foods like leafy greens, whole grains, and beans was linked to a reduced overall stroke risk. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends that you limit the amount of sodium or salt in your diet to lower your blood pressure. Try to avoid or limit foods rich in saturated fat like full-fat dairy, fried foods, and red meat, which raises cholesterol levels. Number 2 is exercise. The CDC recommends all adults get at least 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity aerobic activity such as brisk walking. If that seems daunting, keep in mind that small bursts of exercises like walking the dog contribute to this overall goal. Try to stay on your feet as much as you can too. A 2022 study found that sitting more than 13 hours a day was tied to a 44% increased risk for stroke. And number 3, blood pressure management. High blood pressure damages the arteries, which can lead to blockages and blood clots. If you've had a TIA, it's important to make sure your blood pressure is under control. Ways to do this includes eating a low-salt diet, like the DASH diet, maintaining a healthy weight, exercising regularly, limiting alcohol, and not smoking. If your blood pressure is already elevated at or above measurement of 130 over 80 millimeters of mercury, or millimeters mmHg, your doctor may prescribe blood pressure lowering medications. And finally, number 4, additional considerations include that it's important to follow other lifestyle habits such as managing stress, controlling your blood sugar levels and weight, and getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night.
Well, next we have some news about parenting, and the headline is Talking Screen Time. Screen time has long been a concern for parents, child safety advocates, and others, particularly in the early years when a child's brain and language skills are developing. New research from Southern Methodist University adds another piece to that debate, examining how digital media use may be linked to the kind of words toddlers learn and the family factors that shape how much screen time kids get. Here's what the research says and what it could mean for families trying to support language development when screens are part of everyday life. By age 2, 4 in 10 U.S. kids have a tablet, rising to 58% by age 4, according to a 2025 survey by children's advocacy group Common Sense Media. The survey found that children younger than 2, that is, younger than 2, average 63 minutes of media use per day, which includes about 4 minutes a day watching short-form videos such as YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok. This shift prompted researchers to look more closely at what screen use means in the earliest years. At Southern Methodist University, Assistant Professor of Psychology Sandra Kucker focused on how media relates to language development in kids. When she began her work more than a decade ago, most studies centered on television with predictable routine programming such as Saturday morning cartoons. Far less was known about learning from phones and tablets where content is on demand anytime across countless apps and platforms. Kucker began with a basic question: how is the learning process when children are watching from a mobile device? So if they want to learn a new word like duck, then learning it as a real object that you can touch is different than if it's a picture of a duck on a phone, she said. In a study published in November, Kucker and her colleagues surveyed more than 380 caregivers of children ages 17 months to 30 months about their child's word use and how much video or TV the child watched. After accounting for the child age, vocabulary, and socioeconomic status, the researchers found that toddlers who watched more video content tended to say fewer body part words such as nose or arm, and more words for furniture and people such as mom, friend, or girl. A lot of times those first words are going to be nouns and objects that they touch and feel, Kucker said, adding that those words can help set the stage for building sentences and learning more complex language. But the finding of children learning more people and furniture words was unexpected, because previous research suggested that more digital media time is associated with fewer face-to-face interactions and therefore fewer opportunities to learn these kinds of words. In another study published in October, Kucker and her colleagues found that caregivers' temperaments and that their use of children's influence and that their child's influence digital media use. Researchers surveyed more than 460 caregivers of children aged 17 months to 30 months and followed a smaller group of families a year later. They found caregivers who scored higher on conscientiousness, one of the big 5 personality traits, referring to a person's tendency to be organized, self-disciplined, and goal-oriented, reported that their children spent less time with digital media. This in turn was linked to a higher vocabulary score. Some studies suggest that when adults watch a program with a child, it can support engagement with the content. But what Kucker and her colleagues found was that even when children watched with an adult or watched educational media, the relationship between screen use and vocabulary did not change. Children who spent more time with digital media at age 2 tended to have smaller vocabularies at age 3, regardless of the child's temperament or the caregiver's personality traits. So, how should parents think about screen time in everyday life? Kucker suggests a few approaches. First, use age as a guide. The American Academy of Pediatrics discourages digital media for children younger than 18 months, except for video chatting. For children 18 months to 24 months, it recommends choosing high-quality educational content and using it together as a caregiver. For children ages 2 to 5, it advises limiting screen time to about an hour a day of high-quality educational programs. Kucker recommends co-viewing with your child and discussing the content with them even if they are too young to respond. Offline, take the opportunity to use real-life moments to engage language skills. If you're watching a video, connect what's in the video to real life, she said. When you're grocery shopping, narrate as you're going along, saying, "Oh, here's the banana. Do you see it? It's yellow. Here's the milk." That's the kids' class. That's when they're learning the words.
Thank you. And here's a surprise announcement. Snyder retiring in May as host of Morning Show at KISS 98.5, and this is from Alan Pergament. At WKSE-FM or KISS 98.5 Morning Show radio personality Janet Snyder will be ending her 4-decade run at the station in late May. Two sources confirmed the news, which was announced in an email to staff members at the Odyssey-owned station Wednesday. In a brief telephone call Wednesday night, Snyder first denied she's retiring. However, later she sent a text with no comment and a promise all the answers will be available soon. The Odyssey email to the staff doesn't use the word retire in spelling out Snyder's plans. It's with very mixed emotions that we announced Janice Snyder will be hanging up her headphones on KISS 98.5 in late May to enjoy some much-deserved time off. Time to sleep in, time off to travel, time off to enjoy all her success affords her. 32 years at one station gives her that ability. In Janet's words, after 32 years behind this microphone, what I'm most grateful for isn't the ratings or the milestones, it's the people. The listeners who woke up with us every morning and the team who made the show come alive, and this company that treated me with such an incredible platform on KISS 98.5. I'm thankful for every morning we shared together. Snyder's departure from Janet and Nick, that's Pickles, in the morning will mark the end of an era at WKSC and the Buffalo Radio, which has experienced decline as it has throughout the industry. She's one of the last personality-driven local hosts of pop morning music shows in Buffalo, exemplified decades earlier by Danny Neverth, Jeff Kay, and Stan Roberts, and later by Larry Norton. A 1983 graduate of Williamsville East and a 1987 graduate of Ithaca College, Snyder was inducted into Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Fame in 2023. In July of 1994, Snyder made some history as a Buffalo radio pioneer when she moved from morning sidekick to morning host at 98.5. While no records were kept, industry sources believe that she was the first female to be the lead host of a morning show in Buffalo broadcasting history. "I think it's great," Snyder said in 1994. "Radio has always been a male-dominated business. The station has the guts to make a change. Our target audience is ages 18 to 24 women, and that's what what better way to appeal to them to have me as a host rather than a man," added Snyder. As Snyder started her local radio career at WKSC, worked at the powerhouse's Z100 or WHTZ-FM in New York City, and returned to KISS to work at the midday shift. She later moved to mid-morning as a sidekick. She's married to New England businessman Jeff Bailey, often works remotely. There's no word on the status of Pickles or Weiss, who are part of the 98.5 morning team.
And we'll wrap up with this. Local attractions hope basketball fans will visit on their day off today. With 19,000 NCAA basketball fans in town and no local games on Friday, some of the region's tourist attractions are hoping to give them something to do. Waiting with open arms are Buffalo Niagara's cultural centers, hoping to capitalize on the influx of foot traffic wandering downtown and serve the thousands of people who'll be looking for something to do on the day off between games, that is today. Visit Buffalo, Erie County's Tourism Board has been helping to advertise all of them in its Basketball Fans Guide to Buffalo. Most fans who stick around for Saturday will visit bars and watch parties Friday for more basketball-related fun, so officials had no illusions that the extra visitors will translate into a huge increase in ticket sales for museums and galleries. These are basketball fans, said Patrick Kaler, president and CEO of Visit Buffalo. It's not necessarily that these are arts and cultural fans, but nonetheless, culturals will put their best foot forward this weekend. Some are offering promotions to entice basketball fans through the doors, and all are hoping for a boost during what is typically a slow time for many cultural institutions. And here's a sample. The Buffalo Zoo. Through Sunday, the zoo is offering a $5 discount on ticket purchases at its front gate to anyone wearing the merchandise that supports their favorite college team. Shea's Buffalo Theater can use the promo code 26Adventure to buy a discounted $59 ticket to the production of Kimberly Akimbo. Tickets are available at shays.org or at the box office. Explore Buffalo. The company has a slew of local tours available Friday, including ones about Buffalo scandals, the mansions on Delaware Avenue, and the tours of City Hall. And I'm going to take a moment here as an Explore Buffalo docent to remind everybody that the tour season begins on Saturday, April 18th, and we'll have great tours all through the summer long. Buffalo and Erie County Botanical Gardens tournament guests will receive a 50% off admission to the Botanical Gardens when they show their game tickets at the front desk. And the Buffalo Museum of Science, for fans who show their ticket at the admissions desk at the time of purchase, they'll receive $2 off through Sunday. And at the Darwin Martin House is offering a buy one, get one free ticket for its Martin House Plus, and Women of Martin House tours with a code of Slam Dunk. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Friday, March 20th. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, call 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
J.J. Patek.
And I'm Ed Howard. We want to thank you for listening and have a good, happy spring.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio Reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes